Welcome to Kids Talk Church History, a one-of-a-kind podcast where kids investigate the history of the church. Over 2,000 years ago, Jesus said, "I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it." So, has he kept his promise? How has Jesus built and preserved his church against all odds? Come with us on a trip through history to find the answer, here on Kids Talk Church History.
Welcome to another episode of Kids Talk Church History. This time, we will be doing something a little bit different. Our guests today are three kids who have been making some fun videos about church history, and we wanted to introduce them to you. Their names are Jackson, Madelyn, and Owen, and they live in sunny California. We will include links to their website, Five Solas Media, in our show notes. Typically, Jackson is the narrator, and Madelyn and Owen are the voice actors. We will talk to them in a moment, but first, if you're new to our podcast, let us introduce ourselves. I'm Sophia, I'm 15, and I live in Orlando, Florida.
I'm Emma, I'm 17, and I live in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay, Jackson, Madelyn, and Owen, we're so glad that you decided to join us today on our podcast. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourselves? How old are you, and what do you like to do for fun?
Sure. Madelyn, you want to start?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Madelyn. I'm 15 and I love to crochet, bake, and draw and creative stuff like that.
Nice. I like to crochet too. It's a
Owen?
good one.
I'm Owen and I am 13 and I love to write and read and eat.
Cool.
And I'm Jackson. I'm 17 years old, and I love making music, whether it's playing guitar or playing at our church for worship or whatever. I just love music.
That's awesome. Could you tell us a little bit about Five Solas Media and what is it? Why are you here? What is it that you do that's so church history related?
So we make movies about church history, and we have a podcast about church history as well, because we feel that there's a need out there for people to know more about church history, know where we came from as Christians, and know that there was plenty of Christians before us who have been in the faith.
Yeah, and so back in 2016, we made our first film with adult actors and kid voices. And from then we've made 4 movies, and we have a podcast that we released 2 years ago now about church history too. And we get kids to kind of do like podcast theaters, kind of like Adventures in Odyssey.
That is really cool. So you already answered some of the questions that we have, but what was kind of the initial spark for the adult actor kid videos? Because I watched one of them. It is so funny and I love it so much. So where did that idea come from?
Like the idea of the kid voices with the adult actors.
Yeah.
So there's this thing on YouTube called Kid Snippets that we used to watch when we were kids, and they would do like basically what we did, but not church history things. And so we kind of took that idea and turned it into church history movies, and we've made Martin Luther 1 and Katie Luther, John Calvin, and John Knox.
Mm-hmm. And the idea for movies came from at our church for about 18 years now. My parents have run a Reformation night on October 31st, where instead of, doing Halloween and trick-or-treating, kids come to our church and play games and learn about church history. So we'd always do a skit and put a lot of work and effort into skits and doing actors and stuff, and it was fun, but then it would be over and then it couldn't be rewatched. So we thought, why don't we make a movie so that it could sort of, live on after the Reformation Day? So that was kind of the original idea. And then, like Owen said, we had the idea for the kid voices with the adult actors, and a few other people from our church helped us write the script. And that first one we kind of put together really quick, and we really liked it. A lot of people liked it, so we decided to do more.
So you just mentioned that, do you guys work collaboratively on a script? Like who has what role? How does that work when you're planning an episode?
So for the episodes, I would say the scripts for a lot of the scripts are my mom. She puts together the scripts, and then the interviews are kind of like what we're doing right now, just conversational interviews. And then my dad edits and puts it all together, kind of masters it all so that it sounds good and it flows together nicely. But in the kind of ideas process, it's kind of mainly my mom and dad, but all of us just bouncing ideas off of everybody until it kind of comes out as a script that my mom writes.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And the adults that are dubbing the voices, are they people from your church, from your family? Like, how do you get these actors?
Yeah, so yeah, they've all mostly been adults from our church who are like just willing to volunteer for it. And sometimes we're like, oh, we can't use the same actor in the same movie, so we try to like reach out to someone else saying, hey, do you want to, act in our movies? And most of the time people say yes. So yeah, they're mostly from our church.
Hmm.
That's really cool. So one of the things that is just I really appreciated about your videos is you had impeccable costumes. So where do you get these costumes from?
Well, we can thank Amazon for that and
thrift
thrift
stores.
stores.
Local
I love
California
it.
thrift stores. That's
Mostly
nice.
stores.
yeah, and my mom has an eye for costumes too, so we have a bin of costumes that we'll just mix and match pieces here and there. So
Yeah, for our last
and Madelyn too, yeah.
Yeah, for our last movie, we took like a blank notebook and pieces of paper, took photos of everyone's costumes like on the floor, like we would mix and match them for each character. Then we put like all the details for like each scene, what costumes we needed. So we organized it all and it was pretty cool.
That was pretty nice.
That's-
It's very
man.
professional.
Are your
Very
thrift stores just
professional.
full of 15th century clothing?
Apparently.
The
I guess
full
so.
of graduate robes, so those always
Ah,
work
nice.
for that.
There you go.
And baskets, which are very helpful.
Baskets are very helpful.
That is so true. So
So
how
what
long
I'm-
does it Oh.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Emma.
Oh, I was just gonna ask how long it takes to make one of these videos.
That is a good question. There's always the kind of initial, like, oh, we'd love to, like John Knox was our latest one. So that one took a lot longer because we originally started writing the script like
2020, wasn't it?
early 2020. And then obviously COVID happened and that put it really on a halt. And the movie didn't end up getting actually filmed until 2022. Most of the work is pre-production of doing the scripts, doing the costumes, doing everything, recording the kids' voices. We always do that before so that the actors can act to the voices. And filming itself, we usually do 1 day straight of just filming at our main location, and then we'll do pickup shots at other places. Like in our John Knox, we went down to the beach and we
In
filmed
flooded
a few
water.
scenes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you guys are allowed to tell us this, but are you working on any new videos currently? I mean, you might be. I don't know. Do you have a?
We aren't working on any new movies right now. We hope to in the near future, but
There are
not
ideas.
current. Yeah, there are ideas. But we're hoping to release another podcast episode next month. And so we're kind of like working on that. My mom's working on the script for that. Who's that?
We've got a few interviews that we've done over the past year that we kind of have a backlog of that we're getting episodes to go with. So we should have more of those out soon. But we really do desire to make a new movie, but they take a lot of work and time. So we would like to, but we really enjoy the podcast because it's compared to a movie, lower effort. And so we can put more out, tell more stories, get more people involved.
So for future videos, are you focusing on the Reformation? Is that like your niche, or are you gonna branch out and do some like early church history or like, later church history?
Well, we were thinking of maybe doing like Charles Spurgeon time ones.
Nice.
Charles
Yeah,
Spurgeon
so, like,
himself.
Branching off from like the Reformation,
Mhm.
going like to doing like Charles Spurgeon and others in that era.
Okay, this is like totally the opposite, but I just had an idea about an early church history of do you know about Nicholas and how he smacked Arius during the Council of Nicaea?
Yes.
I just had a vision of that narrated by a bunch of tiny children.
Yeah.
That would be a fun, like a Christmas
Yeah, Christmas
special
one.
or something.
That would be really funny.
That would be
Anyway.
fun. The true story of Saint Nicholas. Yes.
Yeah. But Spurgeon, that's really cool.
Yeah. So we, obviously the Reformation is where we started, and we, Martin Luther always seems like a logical first step for. But we really would love to branch out, and we have in our podcast we have done a young Charles Spurgeon episode. We did Lady Jane Grey sort of branching out a bit more.
Yeah, and Bradstreet.
And Bradstreet, yes.
I love her.
So, kind of jumping off of what you're doing with your podcast, for each of you, what is your favorite time period of church history to study, and why is that your favorite?
Guess the Reformation, because that's what I grew up learning mostly about church history, because of all the movies and Reformation Night.
Yeah, I mean, the Reformation is probably what I know the most about just through osmosis, living in, living with our parents. But I love learning about all of it and how, you see God's tapestry of providence throughout everything. His church, like he said, his church always prevails and moves forward throughout time, throughout different things. Even if it seems dark, there's always like a reformation or something like that. But I love learning about all sorts of figures. I do particularly like learning about missionaries from sort of the 19th and 20th century, like those early pioneers of missionaries like Adoniram Judson. I loved when I was younger, and still to this day, I love the YWAM books about all the different missionaries. Those are such great books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with Jackson. It's awesome learning about what God has done throughout history and different people, like using different people to spread the gospel from Germany all over Europe to America with the Puritans, and just, yeah, I think really all of the Reformation and all those church history figures I love learning about.
Yeah, I know, at least for me, like the reason why I love doing this podcast so much is because it's like, the church in the past is our family. Like that's our brothers and sisters in the past, and being able to just like see what God has done. It's really
it's quite the privilege to be able to look back and see all these people who have gone through worse times than we could probably ever imagine, and how they persevered with the faith. And it's such encouraging stories of like our family from the past, of like going through everything we've gone through, with but to such a degree that we couldn't imagine, yet they still persevere.
yeah.
I feel like when I study church history, I'm able to tangibly see the communion of the saints in the history that we're studying. And that's what I love about what Jackson said at the beginning was you saw there was a need for this in our culture today. So I'd love if maybe each of you or one of you could speak to why you think young people talking about church history and studying church history is so important today.
You
Yeah.
guys want to
Why is it important to you? I don't know. I just came up with this on the spot. So if it's
No, it's a great question.
I
Okay.
think it's important to know like what happened in church history, and that if we didn't have the Reformation, like the churches we go to nowadays, like they might not be here if the Reformation did not happen, and if God did not like choose those people to use in such a way that would like create the Reformation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important, like we've been talking about, to know that there's been others who've gone before us. My parents talk about how in these sort of circles and churches that they grew up with, and when they're younger, they didn't really know much church history, and how learning these sort of things have really encouraged them greatly to learn about all of these figures who have gone before, and how it really is a great encouragement to us to know more. And just, learning history is great in general, but you can really hone in on church history, especially for Christians. Like why not learn about these sort of things? Because it is a great help and encouragement.
Yeah, we can never understand where we are now unless we study
Yeah, the
what
famous
came before.
Einstein quote, "A future without the past is a scary future," and that I think that can be implied to Christians with church history.
So you already mentioned a little bit that you're big into the Reformation. So could you talk a little bit about why your website company thing is called Five Solas Media?
Well, Five Solas are the
Got them on my shirt here.
Yeah, right there. They're kind of the, what's the word?
A summary of the gospel almost.
Yeah, and like what they would say in the Reformation, and then media, obviously, because we make movies and podcasts and packs for Reformation Night.
Yeah, we make activities and sort of things, but Five Solas really is kind of, I think, like when you look at the context and when it came during the Reformation, the Five Solas were kind of come up with all the reformers collectively. It really is such a refreshing thing. It must have been such a refreshing thing for them because there was so much with the Catholicism. There's so much with the Roman Church. There's so much bloating and kind of just all of the ideas were kind of everywhere. And the Five Solas were really just a clear and concise summary of what the gospel is. And so that was kind of like, what better mission statement could we have of the five solas, like to define who we are? So, and then like Owen said, the media came from, we make media, and five solas are our passion, our mission statement in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this is a little bit of a silly question, but I need to know. So, do you in your videos, do you put in like little Easter eggs or things? You know, like I know you did the John Calvin and then you did the Knox, and Knox shows up in John
Mhm.
Calvin.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
are there like Easter eggs and all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff like that?
So I don't know if this is an Easter egg, but yeah, I think it is. In John Knox, we went to a British emporium and we bought British candies and sodas to put in the movie. So like malt balls and iron brew.
Maltesers.
Yeah, Maltesers and iron brew, which is like a famous soda over there. And
very gross.
yeah, we couldn't say it in the movie, but we're
The
but in
orange
John
drink
Knox,
that he shows up, the
he's like-
traditional Scottish beverage.
Traditional
It's
thought.
traditional Scottish beverage. So
traditional
little
Scottish
things like that.
beverage, and then-
and yeah,
And
Can I
then
offer
the
you
scene with
tradition?
malt balls, like, can we offer you a malt ball? Something like
Maltesers.
that.
Mm,
So
Yeah.
Teaser.
we
There,
put,
I'm
like-
sure there's tons of little things. It's hard to think like off the top of the head, but like my dad always says, everything in a movie is intentional. So I'm sure there's little things that we'll laugh about. Like I think in the first movies, one thing that I thought was so funny was the guy who played Martin Luther. I was really into Pokemon at that time, and when he was writing the 95 Theses, he was just writing random things. And if you look closely, one of them says Jackson loves Pokemon.
It's number 7.
I think it's number 7, yeah. So just little things like that. I think it's so fun in movies. You can just throw those little things in there that nobody will ever notice, but you know it's there and the other people know it's there. So it's little funny jokes like that nobody will ever get, but
Yeah.
just little Easter eggs.
That's
like
amazing.
quoting movies that nobody will get.
Yes, there's
I'm gonna
lots
have to
of
go and
movie-
like search for that.
There's lots of movie quotes throughout it too, because
Yeah.
we're all such big movie people. I think one of my favorite ones is in John Knox, the ending scene. He says, you know, when I preach or whatever, I feel God's pleasure, which is a reference to Chariots of Fire movie by Eric Liddell, the Christian runner in the Olympics. And he says, when I
Yeah.
run, I feel God's pleasure. And there's like our film composer did such a good job. He kind of does a little homage to the
Yeah.
theme from that movie there.
Mhm.
Man, that's a good movie, Chariots of Fire.
It is.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
it
is.
We just did a church movie night with it where we all watched it, and then our
That's awesome.
pastor's from Scotland, so he'd been to a lot of the places where Eric Liddell grew up and went to school.
That's awesome. So you mentioned you have a composer. Is all the scores original?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Or
The
well,
first one,
first movie.
yeah, the
but-
first one we got it to him it was like a last minute idea,
Yeah.
and so some of it is stock music, but there's some of it that is original, but the rest are all original music.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
that's
he-
really awesome.
It really is.
I also have a kind of silly, fun question, but are there any funny stories behind the scenes? Do you guys have funny bloopers or weird things that have happened while you're filming?
Yeah, it isn't a blooper, but we needed to film a scene for Katie Luther where the nuns are escaping from the Roman or the
Convent.
convent.
Yeah.
And we only had a certain amount of ladies because it was after our church's prayer. And so we set up the camera and we had like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 ladies just run in circles. So it looked like there was 12 nuns just running, but really the ladies were just running around the camera and like taking off a shawl or putting
We were
the shawl
holding
back
out
on.
shawls for them to
Yeah.
grab as they were running. Yeah.
Wow.
There's so many little things like that behind the scenes that you would never think, but just like movie tricks or like because there's so much you can do with the camera. Like in John Calvin, he's jumping off of a or lowering himself off of a tower, and it looks like he's lowering himself off of this really high tower, but really we just had him stick his leg off of the tower and then shot the other scenes looking up, so it looks as if he's looking down, but he's really on the ground the whole time.
Yeah, movie magic.
And he jumps, so it makes him look like he's jumping off of it.
And one of my favorite just stories too, when we filmed some of the scenes for John Knox at Crystal Cove, which is a beach in Southern California. And the way that you get to it is you have to park on the other side of the road and go under a tunnel to the beach. But the tunnel was flooded, like probably, thigh deep. So we had to carry all of our camera equipment and everything over our heads, wading through the water. So that was kind of scary in the moment, but it was really fun to look back on. Yeah.
Then on the way
Oh my
back, there was like
goodness.
this rock thing that was
Yeah, we
bending
had
out, and we had to like time it so that the waves wouldn't crash down on us.
Yeah, we'd have to like wait for the waves to go back and like jump over it with all of our cameras. So that was kind of crazy, but we got the
Wow.
shots.
We got the shots, and no equipment was
No
ruined.
equipment was broken. Yeah, little sand.
Success.
Yeah, a little sand in the camera bags, but that's fine.
A little
That is
sand in the
awesome.
sandbags.
hmm
Okay, which of the videos that you did was your favorite?
That's hard. I don't.
I think I have. For me, I think it's The Bride of Martin Luther or Katie Luther's. That was our
Mhm.
second one. And I don't maybe it's just where we shot it, or maybe it is the script, but I love just where we shot it was up in the mountains in Idlewild, and it just looks so pretty throughout the movie. And then the music, the score in it is really, really good.
Yeah, that one's probably one of our best ones.
Yeah, I think it's so fun. Each movie has their own kind of special place in our hearts, or my heart at least. There's different stories. Like I remember vividly the production of all of them, and then I love just the production of movies. So preparing for it, being on the set, it's so fun. I love it. But I think probably my favorite is John Knox, just because I was probably most involved with the production in that when I was a production assistant or whatever on that one, along with a friend of ours, and we were just like running around all day, like getting shots here because we had my uncle helping us too because he does cinematography. So we were running around between different things, getting people cables and pizzas and coffees and whatnot, and that was just so much fun. And I also acted in that one too because Madelyn's taken over as being the narrator as my voice has gotten deeper. I don't really qualify as a kid voice any longer. So I got to act in that one and be more involved while she was the narrator. And she's the narrator in all of our podcasts as well.
Nice.
Do you have a favorite one?
John Knox, I guess, because that one was really fun to work on because the place that we were at was really cool. And
Shot that one at a castle.
yeah, we did. Well, John Calvin too.
Yeah.
But
Kind of exhausted the shots there by now.
that was very like it felt more professional, even though the other ones are still.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a budget for that one, so we were able to get we got CGI for one of the scenes that
Oh yeah.
ended up looking so good. We never worked with that guy before, but my dad had known him through something, so we just decided to hire him. And that scene, and there's a few other scenes with little CGI or animated moments. He just did such a good job and made it look so great, and really upped the production value.
That's really cool.
So before we go, because we have a few minutes left, I just wanted to say I so appreciate your commitment to detail, but also to teaching these stories to others because I think it's of immense importance. And I love that there's other young people out there that are sharing these stories. So before we finish, our final question is there anything that you'd like to add about where people can find your work, or maybe where we should start listening to your podcast, what your favorite episode you've done is, or something like that?
Or if you have any questions for us, now's your
Right.
chance.
Yeah.
Okay.
No pressure, no pressure.
Yeah, so like you said, you'd link the Five Solas Media, and that's our website, and that's really where everything is. We've got the first 3 movies you can watch for free. We put those out on YouTube, so those are really, I think our movies are probably the best way to start to kind of get to know us. They're 10 to 20 minutes long each, so they're short films, but we really try to concisely yet in an entertaining way convey the the true history. We don't want to leave anything out, but then also convey the gospel. Like we really have, they're evangelistic in nature to where we hope somebody who's not a Christian can watch them and learn something from it, and maybe we even learn more about the gospel. But a Christian, a kid, and adult alike can learn something they didn't know about a reformer they may have heard of before.
Yeah, we want it to be engaging for not just the kids, but the whole family, for something
Yeah,
like the
that's
whole family can enjoy and can learn from.
Yeah, and as far as favorite podcast episode goes, it's hard. But I think my favorite is our Christmas special we did last year, where it was about Handel and Handel's Messiah,
Oh, yeah.
and that was a really fun one to work on.
Yeah, and in that one we interviewed Johnny Erickson Tata, and that
Mhm.
was really cool
That was-
interviewing her.
Yeah,
I have to go listen to
That's
that
awesome.
one because I love her. So
yeah, yeah. It was really cool to interview her. We all usually my parents will do the interview with us, kind of doing it, but we all did that one together as a family, so that was really fun.
Yeah.
Our cats even get in on it.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, and we'll have links to all the things in the description. So
Yeah, so
no need to go scouring the internet. We got you.
exactly. Yeah, so you can read more about who we are on there and the films that we make. I think what Madelyn said is really something that we tried to do, is that they're engaging for kids and adults. Like we want it to be something like, I think my dad has likened it to a Pixar movie in the past, where kids and adults will both enjoy it. And our case, we hope that they will all learn something from it, but in an engaging and easy to follow, easy to understand way. Like we never want to water down the story.
I guess my favorite podcast episode would probably be, I guess, the Christmas one too. That one was really
Yeah.
fun to do. But also I think John Wycliffe one. Wait, have we done the John Wycliffe one?
John Bunyan.
George
no, not John
Whitfield?
Bunyan. Yeah, George Whitfield. That one was
Yeah,
fun
we did
too,
one
too.
about George Whitfield and Benjamin Franklin.
Oh yeah.
I also we did one about John Newton, and that one was really cool because we got all of our cousins to do the
Oh, wait,
voices for
that's-
that one.
I was thinking
And
Yeah.
that one in the John Newton podcast episode, if you go all the way to the end, we do have a blooper with our little cousin Wyatt. He could not say the line, but it was so funny because it was,
Mhm.
does anybody want a peanut? But we would say that to him, like, okay, say, does anybody want a peanut? And he'd say, no. What would
He
he
was
know?
like, I don't want a
You
peanut.
can't have them.
Oh
He's like,
yeah,
you can't
he's
have the peanuts.
like, no, you can't have them.
Yeah, and there's another reference to a movie there. If you go back to I think every one of our podcast episodes, and I know every one of our movies, there's a little blooper or cut or joke thing at the end. Like it started with Martin Luther, one of our actors. He couldn't say one of the words, so we thought it was funny, so we put it there. And just those little kind of bloopers. Yeah, those little things that just make the movie.
Sounds like after everyone gets caught up on Kids Talk Church history, they got to go listen to your podcast, catch up on all of those episodes.
I have a lot to go listen to and watch now.
I
So
know.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we hope you enjoy it.
My
Yeah.
Christmas break is set, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, Jackson, Madelyn, and Owen, thank you so much for spending this time with us and telling us all about your work. And listeners, keep telling us what you think of these episodes, and please keep asking questions. And if you're doing anything to learn more about church history, or you're helping others to learn more, let us know, and we might have an episode about you. As usual, we have a giveaway this week. In this case, we'll be offering a copy of one of the videos Jackson, Madelyn, and Owen have made, John Knox. So make sure you enter on our website, kidstalkchurchhistory.org. In partnership with the Alliance of Confessing Evangelicals, and on behalf of my co-host Emma, I am Sophia. Thank you for listening to Kids Talk Church History.